Okay, great. Here we go. So I'm going to call to order our special council meeting for Friday, May 15th. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, thank you very much for joining us on this Friday afternoon before a long weekend for this special meeting. I'm glad we were able to get this arranged. The first item of business is a request from Adelaide Metcalf for assistance. And I guess at this point, I will turn it over to Bill or to walk us through, and I'm sure Curtis will have something to say.
So there's really just three things I think that need to be done. First is to tell you that I participated in a meeting with Adelaide Metcalf Council on Wednesday night and listened to sort of adapted things based upon what council said. And then we can hear from Curtis about that conversation or about what it is that the request is. And then the third thing is we could hear from Wayne because he put the agreement together for you to review, and then we'll just do whatever council says after that. So Curtis, do you want to take the floor and talk about the request?
Yes, so first I just want to thank all members of council and staff for being part of this meeting. I know that being a special meeting and being the Friday before a long weekend, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your day. We're in an unusual time in Adelaide Metcalf, and with some administration changes going on, we're asking the county for some administrative and treasury support. And I think Wayne has put together an excellent agreement for a 6-month period to be able to help us out to get us to the point as to where we need to be. And I think my council is very happy with the agreement that has been put together, and I hope to have your support so we can get Adelaide Metcalf running on 2 feet again.
Okay, thank you for that, Curtis. Bill, do we want to go to Wayne now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, well, if you have any questions about the agreement or about anything Curtis has said, there's not been a lot, frankly, at my end that's happened since our last meeting, other than to say Wayne get something together that looks like what council asked for and what Adelaide Metcalf asked for. So,
well,
Wayne,
I guess maybe well, no, but maybe if, I mean, obviously, Wayne, you don't have to go line by line through the agreement, but if there was any particular highlights that you thought were important, maybe do that, and then we can open it up for questions.
Okay, perfect. Well, through you, Madam Warden, to council, I can summarize the agreement, I think, in 9 points. So the first one, the agreement confirms that a written request was received from Adelaide Metcalf with respect to the provision of the services. Number 2, the agreement confirms that administrative duties can be delegated and a municipality can provide service in another one with the consent of the receiving party and an agreement. Number 3, that the county would provide consulting services in a statement of work with Schedule A. And so that Schedule A as human resources services. If all those aren't needed, we could always strike one and the schedule can be changed as needed. Number 4, the services would be provided by county staff. Number 5, the township information that is encountered by anyone providing a service would remain confidential township information and would be firewalled from county information. Number 6, the length of the agreement is 6 months. If there's no extension in writing by the parties, the agreement terminates. Number 7, the hours are capped at 152 hours per month combined, no matter who provides the work. And that's 35 hours a week of total service in a month. And the cost of the service is $70 an hour plus reasonable expenses incurred. And finally, number 9, the agreement can be terminated by either party at any time with written notice.
Okay. All right, so maybe that's a good time to stop, and I will open it up for questions. And Councillor Vanderhayden.
I go through the warden to Wayne. You said something about what services were to be provided, and in the document it says finance and administration, but you actually froze and you said human resource, I thought, at the end. Can you reiterate what it is, the services that we are providing? Because you did freeze on my screen.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, the services are on Schedule A, and they read right now: administrative, financial, strategic planning, and human resources. And I think the reason for that is I don't think it's entirely clear what Adelaide Metcalfe may need at this point, but Schedule A can be amended. So if one of those isn't needed, they can be struck.
Okay. Did you have follow-up to that, Joanne, at
Well,
this
I will,
time?
but I'll let other people talk first.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from any council members at this time? Councillor Warwick, Allison.
Yes, I feel a lot more comfortable with the agreement the way it's written out today, as opposed to our meeting the other day. And again, just to emphasize, it wasn't that I wasn't sympathetic to Curtis's plight with his, I think it was just that it was a very gray talk, and not a lot of things were clear. And to have it written out in front of us, again, with the time limit and with the compensation, I feel very much more comfortable with the agreement as it's written out.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Elliott.
Yeah, I would just echo Councillor Warwick's statement that I do feel a lot better having this agreement in place, having the 6-month deadline, having the compensation in place. In Temp Center, we did receive help from the county with treasury services when we were without a treasurer during our budget season. And it was the same thing that the county just billed us for the services. They helped us get through this. And I see this is the same thing as Adelaide Metcalfe. They're in a bind right now and they need help. And if the county can provide those services and be compensated for those services, I don't see why we can't help them out until they're able to get back on track.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, Joanne.
Okay, so I don't see
I'll
any other
circle back
hands
to
up.
you.
So I'm still not comfortable, and I told everybody why the other day. I think in my mind, and I might be totally wrong, but I see this as a step to regional government, and that's where I'm uncomfortable. I really, I think there's a conflict in my mind that I'm not clear about, in that the county and the municipalities would have. I liken it to if I had an auditor and I asked the auditor to do my finances. That's how close I feel we are, and I feel that's problematic. I have no, I really want to help, but we're giving one option, only one option. This is all that will work, and this is all that we're given to do. And I don't like making emotional decisions on one option when I think there are other options. When I read it, I actually texted Bill a question, and it had to do with head of council requests, and it just said I requested. It was the mayor, and now we're hearing that that Bill was in a meeting with the council. So I guess that clarifies that the council actually wanted this to happen, because in the letter it just says I, and I think one person can't make a decision on behalf of an entire community. So I guess that's more clarified now, that it was because there's no motion or resolution attached to the letter. So that's where I was kind of wondering how that came about.
Well, I think that the letter does say on behalf of the council of the Township of Lucan Biddulph.
But
And
there's
it's
no
signed-
on behalf of
But-
Adelaide
Or,
Metcalfe.
I'm sorry, on behalf of
I
on
can-
behalf of Adelaide Metcalfe.
But there's no motion or resolution, and that's what we would have attached to something
Mhm.
like that. So, but I'm a little more clear on that now, that was the council decision, and so that's positive. The
Curtis,
term, I'm not
did-
comfortable with the term yet. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think
Yeah.
Curtis was just going to speak to that, Joanne, if you don't mind.
If I could, so I was planning on putting the resolution in that letter. However, the issue becomes that resolution was a closed session motion. So I didn't want to have that in there as a public document on the Middlesex County Council website, considering that was a direction that was provided in closed session. So and when it says on behalf of council, council is in support of that request.
Okay, but you can see why I had that question in my mind. And the term, I think that I'm still not comfortable with the term. I'm not uncomfortable with 6 months. I'm not uncomfortable with that at all. But I think there has to be a stop date, and that's what everybody was kind of hinting at the other day. And in the document, in the contract, it says you have a month or a timeline where you can extend it. Well, I thought we weren't going to extend it. I thought it gives you 3 or 4 months to get your feet under you, gives you a few months to figure out where you're headed next with your municipality and who you should hire and how that's all going to come about. But in the document, it doesn't say that. It says 3 months or 6 months, and then it's got an option to extend. And I'm not comfortable with that either. I know we all want to help. I just don't want to do it without all the facts and not just emotion.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion? Brian, Councillor Ropp. I didn't ignore you today.
No, thank you, Warden. I said I would support this if I saw the end date on it and also the cost per, and they do have it identified, the cost per hour. So I do support it. I would just like clarification on that, what Joanne brought up on that extension. It would have to come before County Council before there's any extension, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my understanding. If Bill or Wayne wants to clarify that, but that's my understanding, but I've been led to believe.
Wayne can talk to it.
Yeah, I can clarify. There is no extension. The term is for 6 months. And what 6.2 provides for is 30 days prior to the end of the 6 months. It'll be looked at to see what Adelaide Metcalfe needs at that time. And then if there is no extension, then the agreement just dies at the 6 month point and it's done. But the reason that I put that in there like that is because it's not unclear. I mean, it's not clear what Adelaide Metcalfe may need at the end of 6 months. So, you know, there might be a need for a transition period or something like that. So, you know, it lets County Council think about that 30 days prior to the end of the 6 months. And then if Council doesn't specifically renew it, the agreement's done at 6 months.
Okay, just to follow up on that then, I'm comfortable with it if there is any extension, it has to come to County Council or any talk of it. Then I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I saw Councillor Mayhew's hand up. Alan.
Thank you very much, Madam Warden. I support the motion as I see it written. I think there's parameters of safety right through it. If one regards each of the municipalities within Middlesex County as a link in a chain, when you have one weak link, the strength of the whole chain is compromised. And for that reason, I think we should be extremely supportive of Adelaide Metcalfe. On a more selfish note, and I'm going to choose these words very carefully because some of it involves hiring of officials in our municipality, which haven't come to fruition yet. But as all of the councillors know that Adelaide Metcalfe, Southwest Middlesex and North Middlesex have entered into discussions regarding a combined building services agreement. With Adelaide Metcalfe playing a key part of that, it's extremely important to the other two townships that there's some stability within Adelaide Metcalfe to assure our affairs are being taken and looked after in a good administrative manner. That's the selfish part. I'm not going to talk too much more on that, but this doesn't just affect Adelaide Metcalfe. This affects North Middlesex and Southwest Middlesex administration as well. And again, if I go back to the analogy of the chain, if we have 1 week part, the whole county is compromised to some extent. And Southwest Middlesex will be very pleased to support Adelaide Metcalfe in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Okay, one last call. Any other comments, questions? Councillor DeVete, Ina.
Thank you, Warden. I am in a position to say that I can support this. I asked for clarity around timelines and outcomes or deliverables, what the service would be, and the costs. Those points are addressed in the document. And this isn't a sort of a secondment of staff, it's an assignment. If there's an agreement about what services are to be accessed and delivered in a certain time frame. Middlesex Center has benefited from the assistance of the county when required as well. So I think we're part of the team, and we have an opportunity to ask questions and get clarity around things. We ask for certain kinds of assurances. We're getting those. I can't draw a parallel between this and this is not a taking over of things. There's a fixed timeline here. This isn't a restructuring of how we have services delivered to our council. This isn't an amalgamation between county and a municipality. This is a service that's being delivered for a fixed time, for cost. And if we're okay with understanding that our resources are properly used and covered here in our own county building, that the costs are being covered, I don't understand that we would have an issue with providing that assistance to one of our constituent municipalities. So I'm in a position to say I can support this without any reserves.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Anything else? Okay, so I don't see anything. Now, there is no specific motion, right, Kathy? It's just if somebody wants to make the motion to accept the consulting service agreement, would that be the appropriate one? The copy I've got is chopped off. Just a sec, Alan. I'm just looking for clarification from Kathy about how the motion should be read or worded.
I can take a stab at it. if you want.
Okay, Alan.
Go ahead. Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
I move that the agreement between the county and Adelaide Metcalf, as has been presented to council, with the terms indicated, be accepted.
I just wrote that down. Kathy, did you hear that? Is that good? That's okay. So that's would be appropriate wording.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to it is that the necessary bylaw be presented to county council for the execution of the agreement.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. I agree that that should be put in it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that's been moved by Alan. Can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Elliott. Any other further questions? Councillor Vanderheyden.
So since this is our only option, I'm going to vote for it because I want to help Adelaide Metcalf, but I do it under some duress because I still think there's other ways to do this. But as a county, obviously we need to help each other, and I get that piece. And I just hope that we can revisit how this is all going in the future and make sure that everybody's on sound ground.
Thank you for those comments, Joanne. Okay, yep. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so seeing none, you've got the motion in front of you. And again, I'm going to ask for those that are opposed. So all opposed. And that is passed. Thank you very much. Moving on would be the minutes. So we'll just take I don't imagine it'll take Kathy very long to get the minutes
1 minute.
made up. And When she does, Morgan will share them on the screen. The only thing I'll make mention of, Kathy, is you've got the minutes of the meeting of Middlesex County Council held on April 28th.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so if everybody's had a chance to see those minutes, and Kathy will make the change to the appropriate date, can I get a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes for today as presented? Councillor Richards and Councillor Cornelison. And all opposed? And those are carried. Okay. And then I am going to read the bylaw, right? Do you want to do that, Kathy?
Yeah,
Read the appropriate one.
So there's two bylaws. A bylaw to authorize the execution of a consulting services agreement between the Corporation of the County of Middlesex and the Corporation of the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe for municipal administration and treasury related assistance. And a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the County of Middlesex.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder for the first and second reading? Councillor Warwick and Councillor Mayhew. All opposed? And that's carried. And for the third and final reading, a mover and seconder? Councillor Brennan and Councillor DeVitt. And all opposed? And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn at 2:27.
If I could, Warden, I just want to,
Oh,
can I just have a
yep.
comment? I just want to thank all members of County Council for supporting this agreement. It really means a lot to myself and to the members of my council in Adelaide Metcalfe and our staff, and ultimately our residents in Adelaide Metcalfe. It truly means a lot. As I mentioned to you before, we're in unprecedented circumstances above what everything else is going on in the world. And I thank you very much for your support on this. And I look forward to accomplishing a lot in the next 6 months with the help of the county. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for those comments, Curtis. And a motion to adjourn at 2:28. Curtis Smith, or Councillor Smith, and Councillor Richards. And before I do that, Bill, did you want to say something? I thought I saw your hand. Okay.
I was voting for adjournment, but I'll see you all on Thursday at 7 o'clock, hopefully. We got a lot more registrations.
Great. And a reminder, so all opposed to the adjournment? And that is carried. Thank you once again. And everybody have a great long weekend. I'm sure you've got some exciting plans.